we would be doing that. No, Nan
Yes.
Israelson is the chairman. Yes, it is. Absolutely is.
Will you check it? You're live on YouTube.
We clear to start?
Yep.
Okay, welcome to Planning Commission, March 24th. Oh, there we go. Everybody here? Okay. Go ahead and welcome everybody to Planning Commission on March 24th. We've got Nan and who's the other gentleman? The other new guy who's excused
Kenny
tonight. Kenny Reese will not be joining us. Heather, new alternate member, member, will be joining us tonight and be participating. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Yeah, we got to pledge.
It's not on the list. All right, perfect. I'm just following the list. Oh, right there. Welcome opening ceremony. Perfect. We're gonna have the pledge. Heron would lead us in that, and then Dwight will give us an opening prayer.
Repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our beloved eternal heavenly Father, as we bow before thee this evening in the capacity of Planning Commission meeting, City of North Logan, we're grateful, Father, for the privilege and opportunity which we have to assemble together. We're grateful for the many blessings and freedoms that we do enjoy in this great part of our state and in this great nation. We're thankful for the opportunity which we have to meet together to review various proposals, and we humbly pray that thou would bless us with inspiration and guidance, and we may be able to best utilize the resources we have as a city, and also to protect the rights of each and every landowner. We're grateful, Father, for the many blessings we do receive at thy hand. We humbly pray, Father, at this time that thou would bless the leaders of the nations, that thou would inspire them and help them to unite together to thwart the efforts of Russia to invade not only Ukraine, but other nations as well. And we humbly pray that thou would bless our president, that he will be able to work cooperatively and make the decisions that would be in the best interest of bringing peace and tranquility back. We humbly pray for these blessings and again invite thy spirit to guide us and direct us in the sacred name of thy beloved Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, let's go now to adopt the agenda. Okay, Heather, we'll introduce you again. Welcome. That's okay.
Hi, Micah.
I
That's
probably
okay.
distracted you because I was telling you there wasn't things in your agenda.
I'm Heather again.
We're good. Heather, welcome. Yeah. All right. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda tonight?
I move we adopt the agenda as presented.
I second that. Aaron Hoyt.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approve the minutes. I think we've got minutes from January 6th and January 22nd, 20th. So can I get a motion to adopt those meeting minutes from January?
I move we adopt those, the meetings, meeting of January 20th, 2022.
And the 6th?
January 6th.
And
There's both
And
meetings.
6th, 20th, 6th and the 20th.
Okay,
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Open issues from previous meetings.
I
Spencer, why don't we-
apologize. You have to put up with me this evening. I'm not aware of any of the issues from previous meetings.
Okay.
One item of importance, though, is the upcoming Utah League of Cities and Towns. I didn't know if any of the planning commissioners had signed up for that or registered for that. But if you are interested, please keep in touch with me because you have to register before the 30th of March. It's the third week of April.
Did you talk about that last week?
Yeah.
More, okay,
we did.
all right, so everybody knows what they need to do if they need to do something. Okay, let's move into commission business. Our first item tonight is consideration and possible recommendation of a development plan for a subdivision of approximately 12 acres located at approximately 1800 east, 2800 north. Two parcels of land there. The proposed subdivision now includes 10 lots in the RE1 zone and is being proposed to be subdivided using the density determinant method. I believe this subdivision was discussed in the last meeting, and there was some follow-up items that the motion, or it was tabled in the last meeting, and there's some follow-up that the applicant would like to present, or Alan will present.
Correct. In the previous planning commission meeting, it was brought before the planning commission. It's this parcel that's in discussion, or these parcels here are being subdivided. Just to give a reference. this is-
Alan, can you
Could you
get closer to your
mic
microphone?
Closer to you.
Sorry. As you look at this parcel, this is the parcel that's in discussion, parcel 31. This is part of the subdivision that's proposed. To put in reference, this is Canyon Ridge Drive. This is 1600 east. This is about 2800 north if you drew a line through there in the community. So just to give that reference, and then going back to what Jeff talked about, this subdivision did go before the planning commission. Sorry, let me go back to the actual layout. So everyone, just to bring everyone up to date. This is the development plan. The developer did correct several of the items that were brought up by staff. The road design, road cross sections, lot layouts, lot configuration, and making sure that the water and sewer were able to be properly addressed, including the stormwater, which was replaced with a basin on this west side of this lot, as opposed to an injection well for stormwater, which are not really allowed in North Logan City. And then one of the major concerns, which is a major concern of most subdivisions right now, is water and providing access to water, satisfying the needs of the water conservation plan. And we have here one of the requirements that the planning commission gave to the applicant, to the developer, Nick Porter, was that he receive a letter or confirmation that he is able to use or would be able to use water rights or water shares above the Logan Hyde Park Smithfield Canal, that upper canal. Yeah, it's rare in the past for that to occur. And so the planning commission rightfully addressed that and asked for that confirmation. As you can see, this is the letter. Let me zoom in a little bit though, so everyone can read it. And so he does have confirmation that he can use 4 existing shares. I'm reading the second paragraph, that Nick Porter does own and has acquired, and he has agreed to lease an additional 4 shares from the Cash Highline Leased Share Bank, in quotation marks, until a total of 4 additional shares can be secured by him on the open market. And so he has received this letter from, it's kind of the Cash Highline Water Association, but that's the governing body for that upper canal. And so that's basically Nick. I don't know if he's here, but that was his method or his task to go and receive this confirmation.
Okay. Discussion from commission.
Just a question specifically about the 4 shares to be leased. Have they been leased now? Or is that in process?
So
Go ahead. Nick, the applicant isn't here. I'm not saying
Yeah,
Nick Porter.
I talked to the applicant this weekend,
Perfect.
specifically about this. The canal company indicated that there's a whole bank or pool of these shares. There's landowners that have shares that aren't using shares. I don't understand how this bank thing works, but there's an indication that there is this bank and that they would have them. He has not currently leased them, but intends to lease them as part of this development process until he can obtain those or procure by those leases. So it's in the works, but my understanding, he has not actually leased them to this point.
That's a perfect update. And just to update on a leased share bank, the reason that canal companies and other entities do that is because all the water in the state belongs to the state engineer or to the state as an entity. And so we're given rights and shares to use them. The city has rights and shares to use them for culinary and for secondary water use. You have to put those water rights to use though. I think the state law is actually within a 3-year period. And if they're not in use, the state engineer can legally come in and take those shares back. It's very rare for that to ever occur, but in practicality, to protect those shares, they put them in these lease banks so that they are put to use over time. And so it's a way for the canal company to keep the water shares here in Cache Valley and here in North Logan.
A question, I thought that one of the stipulations we had last time was that we had affirmed that those shares were owned and were leased, not that they were in the process of leasing them, that they would be leased when they made this presentation again.
I
don't
believe
know
that is
whether
correct.
that's right or not.
Is there a time frame on the lease? Like, do these leases run out?
It's-
Like, is that an indefinite lease?
You
Does it
can,
lease
you can
longer?
lease water in
sure.
perpetuity. You can lease it for year after year after year after year. So there's enough. The canal company can lease those for as long or whenever they want to.
So back to what you just stated there, Heron. So the indication from the commission in the last meeting was that they had to be purchased or leased
That was my
Prior to-
understanding. Yeah.
prior to approve.
We
the
wanted to
development.
make sure that they had the water secured, not that they were going to pursue leasing them. They had the 4 that they were supposed to have. But I thought that we were saying, all right, we want to see the lease on those other 4 so that we know that you do have enough water for that property. Secondary water.
Yeah.
So-
I guess my argument there is the ramifications of they don't get the leases. So we require them to have a water conservancy plan instead. The question that I have related to that is then, because there's most of those lots and homes above the canal don't have access to secondary water, but we're requiring this water conservancy plan. The question that I would have is what trigger mechanism is there in place in this process? Because they wouldn't be coming back to planning commission. This is the development plan. So is there a trigger point in place where that's checked? And I don't know if the building permit process is the check for that or city council.
That's a very good point. And what you brought up is the mechanism that we talked about from the beginning. Where are the balance of ensuring that certain things are done, and the correction and the penalties for not complying with those? I would say the planning commission, just looking at this, has 2 or 3 options in front of them. And these aren't the only options, but just take these and run with them. One, based off of Heron's comment, you have one option to either table it and request that the lease shares actually be obtained, a lease shown and brought back before the planning commission. You could do a second option where you say that only those homes in the subdivision, the first 4, could be built out of the 10, or the shares that would cover the number of lots. And at that point, it'd be capped. You could do something along those lines, or you could do something along the lines of approving the subdivision wholeheartedly and saying, yes, you're approved. You would have those 4. We would encourage you to get that lease. This is the tricky part. If they did not get that lease, though, they would be under the very strict water conservation plan that would be required associated with those tiered rates. They're now coupled with that water conservation plan for those lots that do not have secondary shares. And remember, in the planning commission adopted both the water conservation plan, and then the city council accordingly adopted that plan along with the associated tiered rates, which are very steep. They basically say if you use above 10,000 gallons, you're going to be paying thousands of dollars for water each month. And so there is some teeth in each one of those methods that we've laid out. You're not limited to those. Those are just options you probably have in front of you.
Is there a path to approving conditionally that either those leases are obtained or a water conservancy plan is put into place? And I'm not familiar with the approval process of the water conservancy.
You can
plan.
put conditions on there, and you can even put conditions that would be short or long term. One of the conditions would probably be the safest is ensuring that some of those things are in place before it's approved by the city council.
Yeah.
And you have some city council members here, which would provide some more surety that I'm not just speaking right now out of tune.
Okay.
Alan, tell me more about the 4 lots and the contingencies there with the 4 lots.
The first
ahead.
4 lots are the first shares that however much they can water with those shares within.
Okay,
that
that's
subdivision.
already in place. They
They
have
already
the
have those.
ability for 4 lots right now, water
Correct.
shares.
Or even 4+, depending
4
on the
plus.
size of the lots.
Mhm,
So they could water those 4, maybe 5 lots off of those 4 shares.
mhm. What were the other, can you review the other recommendations that we had put in place on this?
There's probably 4 now. The first option would be to table it, wait until the leases are.
No,
secured.
the recommendations that
What was the outcome of the last meeting?
the last meeting, what were the other recommendations, stipulations that we placed on
I believe that was,
conditional?
that was the only condition. The condition was to come back and provide that because he met all the other terms of water, sewer, roads, the soils report. The geotechnical report was required and it's within the folder now. I think the soils report was actually waived for this particular subdivision, but a full geotech report was required and he has provided that.
Okay, so the only issue right now before the commission is the water,
Mhm.
the water shares, I should
Yes,
say.
based off the last meeting's
Yeah.
discussion.
And he has the ability right now for at least 4 lots.
4,
And
maybe
He owns-
5.
Yeah,
Maybe
he
5.
owns 4 shares.
Right.
Mhm.
And however
Okay.
that shares equals however many lots.
Yeah.
Correct.
So we're looking at, he needs water rights for another 8, is it? Or excuse me, another 6. Or he will be under the very strict water guidelines for the remaining lots.
Correct. Or you could make it conditional that he has that lease before it's approved by city council.
Yeah.
He has that lease agreement in writing.
Alan, would you put that map back up on the?
Yes. Do you want the diagram or the GIS map?
Just the one you had up before.
Sorry.
We're getting there. There it is. Two, three, four, five, six. My feeling is with what he's got right now, those 4 on the east, is it? On the right, is that east?
Yes.
Those 4 they could use with maybe one of the others down below, and maybe the 2 small ones with the present 4 shares that they have. However, what's the acreage on those 2 farthest east ones?
Looks like one's 1.06, one's 1.07 on these 2 farthest east. Subdivisions. You'd have to be careful with specifying specific lots though, because as the developer, he may be selling them
Smaller
to
place.
adjacent neighbors who may not develop them at all. Meaning they would just be an undeveloped lot for the foreseeable future.
Okay,
But tying it to a specific number of lots would be appropriate.
Well, I know I'm on the upper canal myself, and I know how many feet they were allowed me for a fourth share, and it wasn't that much. It wasn't a quarter of an acre, a third of an acre, which I have, a little less than a third of an acre. So my feeling is that in the drought that we're facing right now, and possibly in the foreseeable future, that we go with the ones we have in our hand and have him plan for that, and not giving us any, well, if you do this, then maybe we can do that. That's my feeling.
Okay, Dwight, where are you at?
Seems like we should, our previous discussion, we wanted something definitely in place, and looks like he's on the road to getting there. And so I think maybe we probably should consider making the recommendation that it go to the city council conditional upon obtaining the necessary lease of the water rights for the remaining subdivision.
Heather, any comments or words of wisdom?
Wisdom, yeah. I kind of lean towards that. It looks like they've tried to do their part, and maybe allowing those first four with a little bit of a ensuring that there's something to help with the water in the future. That's what I would lean towards.
Well, do I have a motion?
You okay with that? Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move that we make a positive recommendation to the city council on the development plan for this particular subdivision, conditional upon obtaining the necessary lease of water rights, and that is in writing and in the hands of the city prior to consideration there.
All right, motion made by Dwight. Do I have a second?
A second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is
I'll,
that a favor?
yeah.
All right. Unanimously. Okay, on to item number 2. So consideration and possible recommendation of a development plan for the Smiling H subdivision, approximately 40 acres located at approximately 700 east, 2500 north. There's 5 parcels associated with that. The proposed subdivision includes 111 lots. It's currently zoned R112 and is being proposed to be subdivided using the density determinant method. And we've had this one here before. We're at the development plan phase. So Alan, if you want to give us your updates and insights.
Absolutely. So the parcels that you see on the screen that are included are in this area from 03 down through 11 and down further from that. You're all probably familiar with this subdivision. It's come before you several times. It was approved at Planning Commission and City Council for the concept plan. The development plan, just to bring you up to date, the concept plan, all you're approving is the estimated lot alignment, the number of lots, and the road configuration. The development plan, however, has several studies that the Planning Commission requires. And you also have to approve the water, several studies, several plans, the water, the sewer, stormwater, roads, the road configuration, and the road cross sections, soils report, all the reports that you require before traffic study. And so probably the easiest thing to do with this subdivision is to kind of go down through these checklists. And just so you know, let me see if I can find it. So here's the latest development plan. As you go through here, let me ask the developer, are the pink lines the secondary plan, secondary irrigation? Okay. So you're seeing green is the sewer, blue is the water, this is the road configuration throughout the subdivision. If I jump back to the development review, this is what we did earlier this week. When we sat down, we went through each of the items that would be required. Obviously, the land use and zoning, that's more of a concept plan approval. So it meets both the intent and character of each of those, this subdivision proposal. Jumping down through transportation. And so as we've looked at this, I believe the cross sections are in the development plan as we went through those. Again, we received these later in the week, but they are in that plan. The 600 East Bridge design, I don't know if we have that. The developer would be required for half of the bridge that would be located right here, crossing the Hyde Park Canal. At that point, they'd obviously just be responsible for the east half of the bridge. So bridge design, sidewalk and paths, these are all delineated within that subdivision plan.
Can you enlarge that just a little bit, Alan? Please?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's all right. For us old guys. For me, I should say.
And jumping down through here, avoiding dead ends, we've gone through this as part of the traffic study. The traffic study was completed very early on in the process for this subdivision, and it does meet the requirements for our traffic study.
It does meet it.
Yeah, so it is completed.
And it was done with this current design.
Yes,
With
so they
the-
did that earlier, and they did it with multiple designs because they were trying to see which one
Okay.
worked well with the requirements from the city council. So yes, it does meet that. The trails, just so you know, as part of our trails master plan, this subdivision does require that the south side of 2500 North, this road that goes right out here outside the library, the south side of that road has a 8-foot multi-use path along the south side. So that would be included as part of the designs installed by the developer, which would be fantastic because it ties in with our safe routes to schools. Going down through, there's no park, street trees, or common open space requirements because they're using the density determinant method. You get to culinary water. Again, this is the big question as we go through everything. The applicant has submitted the water model to an engineer, a third-party engineer. That third-party engineer weighs the water model for both supply and demand within our system, and then weighs it also for fire protection. So having the adequate fire flow and fire protection in the case of an emergency or worst case scenario within the subdivision. That water model has been submitted after that to Lance Anderson, our city engineer, who reviews that, and he has agreed with the water model, and it does seem to satisfy the demands of both fire flow and the demand, conditional upon having a secondary system in place.
Is
Jumping
that
down-
secondary system? So it's conditioned, the plan that was presented is on condition
yes, to
of
set,
and the secondary design, it's condition of that design or condition of having it in place.
yes, they would, as part of the water conservation plan, which would be required, there's few methods you can do that. So you can meet it through the xeriscaping and the other things that we've done in code, or you can meet it through providing secondary and working with the city on the water shares and water rights ordinance.
Oh, okay.
And so as they've gone through that, they've opted to go through the secondary watering, which lessens the demand. But yes, they would be required to submit a full design reviewed by the city engineer, making sure that's adequate. As part of that, let me jump back here.
And has that design been submitted?
The design was submitted today. So we have it in the folder as of today.
Okay, but it
Those were the
hasn't been
pink
reviewed.
lines that you see right here. Right, sorry. Let me go back one. Just to confirm those. So you can see it on the rear axis of the lots. This is the pink design, and these are the secondary irrigation lines throughout the subdivision. Now, the line, and just to go over this, this line was operated and services all of this area. There was ag land and several residences throughout this area. And there's questions about what it can provide, what it can sustain as far as providing residential use. And the applicant has, it's my understanding, has been to the secondary irrigation company meetings, met with them, and they were encouraged to basically telling them that it would be very difficult or impossible for them to supply the water to this subdivision through the existing irrigation line.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Okay, so they wanted studies to confirm. So rather than do that, the option that they've explored is, let me see if I've got it here, would be, I'll just,
Mhm.
so the option would be to bring it off of the canal,
Okay.
the Logan and Northern Canal, the Middle Canal, and bring it down somewhere through this area. Sorry, I'm not familiar with exactly where, but through the property owned by the Stevens.
So it's not an issue with water or volume of water, but there's an issue with the delivery.
Pipeline, the delivery.
Okay,
Hmm.
but there's a plan in place or something. I missed what's in place to take care of that. Okay. Okay.
And they've
okay.
applied to the Cache Highland Water Company, which governs the Logan and Northern Canal.
Yeah.
Here, they have
That's
these
what the pink
two.
lines or the pink items are, the secondary water lines
That'd be the secondary
The pink.
irrigation
or secondary
plan.
okay.
So they have the diversion here, the application for diversion at Headgate coming off of that canal. And it appears here they have an agreement to the Stevens family to go through their
To run the line through there.
property. Is that correct? To run the line through their property? Okay. And then just jumping down through here. Sorry, let me jump back to the subdivision. Sorry, checklist.
So just so I'm clear on this, and I apologize. So what it was going to require some sort of study or something with the existing, and you've opted to say, hey, we'll just bring our own line in off the canal because we don't have the time to go through the study. Is that, am I summarizing that accurately? Okay. All right. And you've done all that design. You're done with your secondary water design. You're in the process of it. Perfect. Oh, I'll try not to ask him any more questions. I know. I know.
Jumping that through here, though, that's a key question. The water conservation plan has been submitted today. It would have to be reviewed by the city engineer and the public works staff at that point.
Right.
To go over that, but it is in place. It is, or the plan is in place. They've submitted those documents along with the diversion, secondary water rights. This is part of our new ordinance. It would go through that portion of our ordinance to determine the indoor use, what shares would come to the city, and the shares would be negotiated with the city at that point, according to that ordinance. Water infrastructure, we've gone over that. They've supplied that within the development plan. Access, I received a draft development agreement specific to sewer within this subdivision. I'll have to jump back really quick. And the sewer in question is actually located right here on 2500 North. So this is the canal. This is just east of this of the library. If you look up here, this is 6th East and 2500 North. They would have to bring a sewer line that ends right here to bring it down from that intersection underneath the canal. They'd have to bore underneath the canal and tie in just west near the access to the police station, if that gives you a good reference. So they need to put that in. That might take a while in getting access to that and having that board. And so they provided even a secondary agreement that's associated with just that length of sewer. And then the development agreement as a whole, which is approved by the city council because it binds the city financially in certain obligations, would include the remainder of the sewer throughout the entire subdivision and how that's installed. But that was submitted earlier this week. Jumping down through here. The other plans are stormwater. Again, this has been submitted, I believe so. But this would need to be reviewed and gone over by our city engineer to make sure it satisfies. What they are proposing though, is a low impact design. It's actually quasi required by the state now to do a low impact design. And I'll explain what that is if I can pull this up within the designs. So this is a low impact design that you can see in the middle of the page. If anyone can see that, I know all the numbering and everything is really small. A low impact design is, instead of a high back curb, a curb that has a step on the back of it, it's a flat curb on each side of the road, followed by a swale. The swale, then the sidewalk. And the swale is intended to catch the stormwater and kind of compartmentalize it during a storm. We have this throughout the city. North Logan was one of the first cities to start utilizing this method. The state has subsequently started requiring this. You have to use this method unless you can determine a reason why it's not viable. Usually if the subdivision has very steep roads, it's not viable. And so that's the one condition. This does not have any steep roads within the subdivision. And so by doing this, it actually handles a large amount of stormwater within each of the roads of the subdivision. And you don't see the large basins that you see in other subdivisions where the stormwater is collected, pooled, put into an inlet box, and then it bubbles up inside of a catch basin, or in a detention basin somewhere within the subdivision. And so that's what you're seeing here. But again, the city engineer would have to go over that. They should be able to satisfy those requirements though, based off of the low impact usage of the low impact design roadway.
So that's planned for all of the roads with the exception of 2500 North.
And 6th East. 6th East is
Will have high back curb.
yeah, it's more of a regionally significant road, so it has to maintain that standard.
Question, Alan, does the city sewer line have the capacity to carry that much more sewer?
That's a fantastic question. I should address that. During the process, the applicant's required to submit a system assurance and quality assurance plan. It's a fancy way of saying, are the sewer lines in the city adequately sized to handle the sewage that would be created by this subdivision? And so they'll submit that in conjunction, the same as the water model study. But in association with this, we've talked about this with the developer. If they are to move forward, it would go in that route that they've defined, where they go under the canal and tie into 2500 North, which that line is larger as it heads west. So it would handle a large amount of sewer.
So has all that assurance stuff that you said, has that all been completed?
No, I don't think the CCAP report has been submitted.
Please.
That sewer line that he's talking about where it showed the boring on
Underneath
25, it goes along 6th West, 6th East right now, and it continues to run all the way north up into that further subdivision. And then it's a smaller line with less capacity. So in this design, we're alleviating a lot from the city by rerouting underneath 2500 with a 10-inch line and diverting a lot of the sewer. It goes north right there. So we're going to stop it and then bore underneath the canal to help the city with their sewer issues.
So it goes and picks up.
It goes into
Into that.
Aspen Meadows and goes
Yeah.
west.
Okay.
And then north even.
Okay. So, and so all of this is actually coming into 2500 North.
And will be diverted. Yeah.
down. Okay.
Ben Johnston, I'm the engineer.
Another question, Alan.
Yes.
Coming in on that, to the size of the line for the secondary water, is there only going to be one line coming into the subdivision to supply everything? From the upper canal, just one main line coming down, it'll come both sides of 2500 North.
I believe so, but Ben could probably confirm that if he wants to go to the microphone.
Stay over there, Ben.
So right now, currently on the how about that? So currently on the irrigation system we are trying to tie into, we met with the irrigation company last Thursday and showed them all the numbers of what we were doing to reduce the existing use of the water coming out of the canal. We had, I think, 40.1 equivalent acres. I think we're down to 20.44. of irrigated area, which will be in this subdivision. But we couldn't fit the bylaws of using the North Park canal, so yeah, to be on their system. But all of them just have one line that feeds off that system.
Right.
But we couldn't produce a water study because nobody on the board knew the size of the lines. You have to know the size of the lines to do the study. And they were so old and ancient that it's just going to be more of a efficient system to run our own and put it on a homeowners association where it can be metered and in the new laws anyway, each lot
Yeah,
has to be metered
metered.
for secondary. So it'll be a better system, I think, and be better monitored. But yeah, the line only has one feeder to the entire subdivision. It doesn't loop back around, but that's how all of them pretty much are tied in. They don't have it's a pressurized, so it doesn't loop back around.
A few of the other studies, just jumping through these, and I'll jump to these quickly. Soil study, just asked the developer, that was submitted, correct? So the soil study submitted, geology study was waived for this portion of the town. Grading and drainage study has been completed. Property ownership, I believe this was resolved in the latest submission of the plat survey. Street lighting plan, I believe, still needs to be submitted. It's on there. Okay, so the street lighting plan has been submitted. It'll need to be reviewed, but it should be compliant. We've discussed this with the developer in the past and the estimated locations in the past of where it needs to be located. And then they just follow the city's design standards, technical manual for the type of light and how it's installed. The other items down here all seem to be adequate from the fire department.
So so it looks like most everything's been submitted, with the exception of the bridge design.
I think bridge design, CCAP,
Yes.
and that's probably about it.
But there are several things that need to be reviewed by
Yes.
staff.
The bridge designs be done by the city engineer. He's actually doing that portion of it.
Oh,
So he has that. He's doing not the bridge design, but he's doing it's a 48-inch RCP, I believe, through there along that whole portion of it.
He would do that. He cannot do the east half of the road design. So he could do the west half of the road, the
Right.
bridge design.
And I have
Which
the
could
curb
be
and gutter
copied
and
and
all that
pasted.
designed for the east half of the road, but he's actually
Yeah.
doing the bridge portion. And he just sent me the plans on that we met on Tuesday. So I believe we addressed pretty much
Okay.
every item on there, other than what some people still need to review, some
Right.
fees and comments, and we wouldn't move forward until they were approved. Contingent of their approval or any notes or comments they have.
thank you. Comments or discussion from the commission?
Another question. Would you go back to the map, Alan,
Yes.
please? Got to get myself oriented here.
Sorry, the left side of the map is north, and I can even download
Okay,
that and
going
rotate
down
it.
there on 6th East on the north terminus of 6th East. What's happening there? Farther left.
Right here at the edge of the
No,
subdivision.
no, go up to the green, the road coming on the subdivision.
This right here.
Nope, up
600 east
600 East,
or 650 east or.
whatever that is.
Oh,
60 I can't read.
650 east
There
right
we
here.
go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go to the north end of that, please. What kind of a terminus is going to be there at that 650 East?
That's a good question. When we worked with the developer, the planning commission and the city council had a concern with this lot and how it came to an end, and it was straight beforehand. It came in like this and almost made this lot undevelopable. And it left the future owner, when and if that ever develops in the future, they have no desire to develop right now. But it left this lot somewhat undevelopable as it crossed into that subdivision. And so you can see it starts to curve at this point. The other question that Aaron's probably talking about is adequate dead end or temporary turnaround. Because of the distance between this lot and here, this satisfies the terms of a T or a turnaround because they can back up into this road and exit.
Hmm.
If this was any longer, then they could not do that.
Okay, is that terminus going to be a permanent kind of thing, or can there be gates there?
That would be up to the landowners. They can put a gate up at the end of that. I would probably recommend that. And I think this might actually have some pasturing needs, so it may already have a fence surrounding it.
So is that your determination to put a gate in there, or work with the landowner to do that? Right.
They would just leave the fence. There'd be no gate. There would be no access into that lot.
Yeah, because the landowner to the left there, could they put a gate in there if they wanted to, rather than just the fence?
They could determine that, yes,
Okay.
with the developer.
Okay.
I don't.
Further?
And maybe just basics here, Alan. And hasn't been that long ago that I've been in Heather's chair, but just talk a little bit about the density determinant method. How that's,
The density-
why this is impactful.
That's a good question. There's three standard subdivision methods. One is just standard option. All the lots meet a specific size. Then there's the density determinant and then the bonus density. Bonus density, you're allocated a large, you get more lots based off the amount of open space that is donated to the city or within the subdivision. Density determinant, it's based off of an average of lot size. The average lot size has to meet the zoning within the subdivision. They can be smaller and larger, but they have to average within that. There's also thresholds. You can't go below a certain size. So even though it's average, you can't have a tiny lot within the subdivision. It can't go below a certain lot. And I can look that up in the table. And then obviously they average at that point. You can go above that, but you can't go below that average.
And this proposal meets that criteria.
Correct, it does.
And do you recall what that minimum size is?
I don't remember. I'd have to look in the table.
Third of an
right now.
acre, fourth of an acre?
This is an
It's
R1,
10,000 probably.
this is an R112
R112
subdivision. So it'd probably be somewhere around 10. Yeah, it'd be an R110 equivalent at the smallest that these could be.
I think, you know, kind of my take on it, I'm a little apprehensive to push it through, being that there's significant review that's got to be done on many items. Especially at the development level. I don't know, I guess I'm on the fence a little bit about approving it conditional to all those approvals. I don't know. That's where I sit right now. I'm apprehensive in that, you know, the city staff, most of the stuff, or a lot of the stuff, it looks like it arrived in this week or the last few days. Near as I can tell. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. I don't know, Dwight, your thoughts?
I guess it kind of all gets back to a comfort level of city staff. And, you know, again, in our previous discussion, we were kind of hesitant about doing things unless there are some contingencies in place. So I don't know.
Yeah. Your thoughts?
I see a really dense populated area with no open space in there for kids in this area to go play someplace. And when I signed on to this, I'm going to be very blunt and direct. When I signed on to this assignment, the mayor asked me, and I told her what I wanted. I felt that every subdivision that came into the city should have some low-income housing in it to spread that low-income housing need throughout the city and not just pack them in down like we have here, this area down here and over by where I live. I would like to see us spread that out so that these families in low-income areas would have a greater support system. And it would spread out the need for emergency situations, law enforcement, that kind of thing. And so I'd like to see something look like that and some open space in there.
Heather, what's your thoughts?
I have opinions even on my first day. So. I guess I don't feel completely the same as Taryn. I feel like we live near a beautiful park in Green Canyon area. There's some open space nearby, and Elk Ridge and stuff. So there, I don't feel like that is as big of a concern because I know there's a housing problem. And so sometimes you got to pack things in and people want homes versus townhomes and stuff. So I see that. But I do feel similarly in the sense that I'm a person who wants to check things off, dot my I's, cross my T's. And I guess I feel a little uncomfortable moving forward unless I feel like the city's already put everything, like approved everything. And I think it sounds like that's maybe something that could happen in the next, I don't know, week or two or whatever. So by the next meeting, that's just how I feel too. Just a little, I feel like it's so close from what I'm hearing. And that's exciting.
Okay. Well, do we have a motion for this evening?
Just another question. We've already, this
Oh.
this has already gone through the concept plan,
It
right?
has.
And that's been
Okay.
approved. And that
So
was
then that
based
means-
on the number of lots that we see here tonight.
Right.
So that's already been approved.
Yeah.
By the count, or excuse me, this commission and the city council,
Correct.
correct?
Okay.
So we're kind of behind the curve from the
Right.
open
Well, and
space.
yeah,
thing,
I
and-
think that's an important part. We do have to look at what our responsibility is.
I think.
We have, this really is kind of an administrative function at this point. The zoning's met. There's not a lot of subjectivity to that. The zoning's met. At this point, we're really making sure that the things that they have in their development and in their design meet the codes and the standards that we already have on the books. Addressing zoning, density, and those sorts of things really have to be done at the city code level and not necessarily subdivision by subdivision. So anyway, that's just some of my thoughts, related to density and those sorts of things. It does meet those things, and we acknowledge that as we went through the concept phase. Our responsibility at this point is, does it meet the current code and standards that we have on the books right now?
And is it fine to move something forward without like the bridge design completely being approved? I know you mentioned the CCAP report and bridge designer
I
in the
think that's
process. And so is that,
I think
fine
that's
to
the
allow.
question at hand for me,
Yeah.
and maybe where I'm a little bit uncomfortable. There is a little bit of subjectivity there that, yeah, maybe technically stuff has been submitted. Where I'm uncomfortable is that I don't have the staff report that states we're comfortable with the engineering of the design for sewer, we're comfortable with water, we're comfortable that those things have been met.
Mr. Chairman, would you be comfortable with a motion to move forward, but again, contingent upon all the issues raised by staff be met before moving forward?
I think where I'm uncomfortable is that we don't get an opportunity to review those staff comments. So if it's contingent on that, that means they check the boxes and then it goes to city council. So that's where I'm uncomfortable making a positive recommendation when I really just don't know that everything's been put in place.
Mr. Chairman, can we table this for right now and see it down in the future when all of those things come in?
I'm comfortable with that.
Then
Entertain a motion?
I will so move that do we table this for right now until we can get those other studies done and completed. And once we see those, then I'm comfortable moving forward.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I
Second.
second.
Go
Both
ahead.
of them tied.
Go ahead. Let Heather-
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous to table. Okay, item number 3. Consideration and possible recommendation of a concept plan for the Beck Farms subdivision, approximately 12.31 acres, located approximately 2828 north, 1600 east. There's 3 parcels of land. The proposed subdivision includes 9 lots in an RE1 zone and is being proposed to be subdivided using the density determinant method. So no rezone request. It's just simply a subdivision. I'll use the term simply. It's just a subdivision request of 3 parcels that are there. So if you want to kind of give us the background, Alan.
I can give you an overview. So the subdivision that you looked at earlier tonight was here, the one that Nick Porter was discussing. This subdivision would be this land owned by the Yonker family through here. It's a Beck Farm subdivision. I'll go over to proposed concept. Let me see. So this is the concept at hand. And sorry, it looks like this because I had to scan the actual drawing that goes in here. What they're proposing is a 10-lot subdivision. However, in this initial phase, what they're proposing is a 6-lot subdivision. So lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 that you can see here. This subdivision is fairly unique. And the reason I say that is you look through this subdivision, these parcels are actually somewhat larger than they would be required to be. This zone is RE1, so it's 1 acre. And this road coming through, as we worked with the applicant, some of the goals and objectives of the subdivision are obviously to provide homes that meet the character and the intent of the area which they're built, but also you can see future park, and a future phase. This area along the canal, the upper canal we spoke about, is located through here. This has been owned by the Beck family and the Yonkers for generations now. What they're looking at doing, and I can allow the applicant to describe it further and in better terms, if it's okay with the chairman, but
Sure.
Looking at more of a legacy park. What we mean by that is we're not going to have soccer fields here, other things that I love. We're going to have this. It's not appropriate for this area. What it is more of a legacy to preserve the historical aspect of this area and have a nice leisure park through this area, equipped with orchards, things that historically have been here, other aspects, benches, improve the canal access, the trail access through here. Potentially some picnic table or picnic areas for families, some grassy areas, yes. And so it's very unique. We don't see this a lot. And hats off to the developer for coming in with something innovative in their design and what they're doing. I've never seen a subdivision, I'll just be honest, that meets the intent and character of the area more than this subdivision. Again, but you have a myriad of things to review, not just the intent and character. But that's what it's meeting is with the park design, the layout design. The city has encouraged them to push this road. It originally came through like this, through the middle, to push this road, which would then end right here in this phase, which they are requesting. But they intend to move it south so as not to dissect the future park. You have a cohesive park through this entire area that comes up through here. They're using the standard method. They aren't using a bonus density method or anything else. Normally a bonus density method, you capitalize on that, you get more lots than you would otherwise, and you donate a portion of that open space to the city in that conjunction. That's not the case here. This is just a standard subdivision, and a large portion of this land would be donated to the city to work in conjunction with them to develop a legacy park, a historic park through this area.
Okay. Doug, Gordon, anything you want to add? The one that's DCC, that one is a little bit easier to follow along down. Yeah, no.
Well, let's leave this for just a minute.
Okay.
let's leave that this way. Because we've been chatting with the city about this over several months with our family. Knowing this, my parents passed away about a year ago. And so our family said, let's just do something.
Can you come to the microphone and also state your name, please?
Okay, I'm Gordon Yonker. So our family just said, let's do something while we're still alive. So we've got a few years to, work on this. But this was a first concept that really came about at the request of Nick Porter, for what's happening. So, our understanding was it was in the interest of the city. They want to see what could happen on the south, on our property. And two, that subdivision on the north wants to have an easement for sewer to run, through our property. We want to know where that, would go at. So it is a factor of this is to respond to the other subdivision. We need to know that we've got a location for their sewer to run, so it doesn't run across, potential lots. So this was the first take. It showed all the property that our various family members own. And then this concept had a flaw in it because it made it look like there was going to be a road go up across the canal. And we had no interest in that road. And once the city started seeing that, we had interest in us building that road. But, our brother Norman, who owns above the canal, he's not interested. I mean, he's interested in the park, but he's not interested in a future development for, say, 10 years or out, which we anticipate there would be opportunity of 1800 east going through. And so even that road that we'll eventually talk about on the south, we're not seeing that would be necessary. It just needs to be on there to preserve the value of that property so that there is access shown on anything we would do below the canal. So big picture, the whole thing, but the next pretty photo, Alan, that shows just.
It's the one that's DCCC.
This was the one the council or the commission should have gotten in your packet. This one was showing, the initial, and this, you just got to sort of break this down with the idea here. That 2.57 acres is the initial proposed donation that would go with phase one. Okay. And then, our brother had an interest in who's Norman, to instead of take lots that were previously on the previous concept, we dropped 3 lots to create a future park donation, at some future date, which is on the west side there. And so in the present, that's going to show as being included in a phase 2. And the important thing about this is to maintain at least a 5-acre parcel in Greenbelt. So, because we're not expecting to do a phase 2 until a future date because we'd lose our Greenbelt status. And then in the future as well, as that above the canal would potentially develop, our brother has shown that he would make additional acreage available for a park, above the canal. So it sort of gives you the big picture and like a master plan snapshot, but the concept you're considering is only the below the canal part. Okay. So go back to that. The reason for the pencil drawing is when we met with the city on Tuesday, they had some additional, recommendations coming, from the engineer. And so that pencil drawing incorporated what was discussed, as Alan said, running the road if there was a need for a road on the south. Now, again, we're not desire a road to go through. So, keep in mind that, in 10, 15 years, when there's access east of the canal, as in an 1800, then we're only showing that as if there was no other access opportunities. But we would see that road ending at the beginning of the park. Okay. Now, you don't see it very well on there. It doesn't look like it copied, but there is a sewer line that runs from the corner.
Yeah, it was on that previous one.
You see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it runs, but it's different now that we
Oh,
met with the
okay.
city. Because the sewer line now comes out of the same corner.
Gordon, you can go.
The
Gordon?
angles across.
See that note that says sewer line?
Yeah.
It runs in a diagonal straight to the corner of the, to the center of the road there, so it misses those lots. And really that's like, two things we wanted to get out of the meeting tonight was, ideally approval of concept, but, it gives us a read that
Sure.
is in addition to the staff, as the city feel an interest in a park, in this part of the city. And two, we're going to want to have something in hand that's approved before we enter into any agreement for easements for sewer lines to our property. Okay, and as such, start with a concept and then the development plan and get it through to the city council. So with that, I guess if there's questions.
Yeah, Gordon, I have one, and that is anything above, I'm going to say up diagonal, is that going to be developed? And if is that sewer line proposed going to be the drainage for those lots that are maybe in the future up there above?
No, if you looked at the adjacent subdivision, they'll have a sewer connection in on their property. See the road there? See where that road is?
So that's the Nick Porter, the one that we. had
Okay,
on the
yeah.
Agenda first.
So anything
That's where
above would
that's-
run in that road, would run in 1800 East.
Yeah.
For sewer and probably water.
Sure.
Other
Yeah.
utilities would come off of Nick Porter's development. He's happy that we've cooperated with him on the sewer.
Sure.
And we, actually got going on this in part because we understood the planning commission was interested in, what would happen to the south of his development. So we went to work with our family and said, this is what we could do.
Another question, that area which is Future Park, and then you've got the dark line, and then there's another Future Park. Is that what I'm looking there?
No, it says future
Future
phase.
phase.
That could be development, the dark.
No, not the dark, down here on the left of the canal.
Yeah, that would be a future park in conjunction with a future phase
Okay,
above the canal. So it gives you the big picture. But, for the concept plan proposal,
yeah,
it's the below the canal, part. And one thing that came out of the meeting with the city on Tuesday is instead of it being, 9 lots, we added a lot, so it got it to 11 lots. And 2 of those could potentially be flag lots if it was chose to be done that way. You see that piece right there in the middle? That could be one really nice, large estate, or it could be actually accessed by, a private lane for two residents.
And one thing to remember just for the city council, or sorry, planning commission, because we went through this for several years. And it's a common problem throughout North Logan City. Once you subdivide a property at any time, you can't go back and subdivide it into flag lots after that. And so the Yonkers would be preserving their right by doing a flag lot at this time, if and when they do phase 2, to preserve that right. But you can't subdivide a property and then come back in 20 years later and say, no, I would like 3 flag lots in this area. It's just not allowed anymore.
So just so I'm clear on the request tonight. So we're requesting a subdivision that would include phase 1 and phase 2 for 11 lots, not 9.
Gordon would have to clarify.
That's right.
that.
And so
I have this plan that
So
says 9 and,
see on there, it says 11 because after our meeting on
Oh.
Tuesday,
okay,
and they had us move the road. And then we got just, our initial proposal shows that we would access 6 and 5 as flag lots from 1600 East. The city staff discouraged that and wanted to see that street built. And then suggested that 7 and 8 could be accessed by the flag lot ordinance. That was something I learned. Okay. So, instead of making the request to delay building, the street, we're going to need to figure out how to build a street and then use the flag lot, allowance, in phase 2.
But if the subdivision's approved at this point as proposed, we're giving the okay on that flag lot 7 and 8.
Correct.
That's what you were stating.
You would approve the lot configuration and the roads as they're laid out in this plan right here.
Okay. And the intention of the subdivision on phase, I guess so if we're doing phase 1 at this point right now, that would allow access to lots 5 and 6. And that's a full subdivision, 60-foot road, curb gutter.
Well, let me address that.
Please.
So on the concept plan, we showed in the notes, the engineer notes, that it, could be either a 55 or 60-foot right of way. And when you read your street, requirements for the number of lots that we are using, we could choose the 55-foot right of way.
Mm-hmm.
And, with, and the pavement width that goes with that is 25 feet. Plus, 2 foot, flat,
Sure.
concrete curbs. But we could say, and then we've had this discussion. We could choose to go with a 60-foot right of way and increase the landscaping, and tree planting in a larger swell.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is something we're going to wrestle with in the design part of this, and not have any more pavement than is required.
Yeah.
But if we felt that there was an advantage of having the 60-foot right of way, then the difference goes into the landscaping. But I think, we want to stay with, the requirement of the code and not have the city require something that's bigger and more pavement than, the code requires. Because we're really not intending to build a massive development, going to the east. This is going to be for those 11 lots. That should be the minimal residential street in your ordinance.
Okay. So I might have missed something. You're referencing, and I see it here in the notes here, the right of way. So is the intent to do the subdivision? I guess help me understand what we're calling the right of way.
Well, it's okay. Here, this project is going to require a partnership with the city.
Okay.
Because we're not going to be able to build the park and build the total road into the park. And so there's going to need to be an interest on the part of the council to say that, this is a worthy project for the city to have some level of participation. And I'll give you an example. So we built the road to service to the point of 6 and 7, in phase 1. We don't do anything in phase 2 for however many years. But the city, could enter into an agreement, to have an easement through and do some level of construction for road to get to the park. And that's where we would see the city could have responsibility in discussing it with the staff. We thought, well, we could do a temporary road all the way to 6 and 5. And they said, no, it had to be built out according to code. But the city could do a temporary road after that if their interest is to go and access the park, because we would want to know the city's going to start to work on some kind of a park. And I don't know if that, initial concept got done that.
He's working on it right now.
Yeah, so he's still working on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very interested in seeing how would the city not just develop the initial, 2.5 acres, but the whole thing. What could it look like in the future? And so our family wants to know not just that there's a piece of land the city has as part of this subdivision, but they're going to do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
And Alan talked about the rural nature, the legacy, and and I would add to that, I don't think we are adverse to some modern improvements. You know, like I have a brother who says, you know, there could be a soccer field. I mean, there could be a grassed area. So I think there's a lot yet of back and forth to say what really serves our family's interest and the city, you know, the best. You know, there's the potential for a trail to go all the way to the mountains, you know, from 1600 East. You know, how would that look?
Mhm.
You know, for this proposal, we're just getting it, you know, to the canal on the west side.
So the park is all really part of phase 2 and is contingent
No,
on.
only, no. The one that says park.
Excuse me. Yeah, well,
is
I guess
par-
I'm not understanding the difference between future park and park.
I'll just, okay.
Yeah, we'll listen carefully.
This we see next. We're getting, you know, we're using density determinant. So we're not taking all the lots we build,
Mm-hmm.
but
Sure.
we're
So there's an,
we're contributing
yeah,
way beyond what is necessary. But it leaves us the ability to, you know, have these on closer to half acres. But this is our interest to get things started.
mm-hmm. So why divide the future park and the park? I guess why isn't it all part of that?
We need 5 acres.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Yeah,
So,
you said that. Yeah.
so until, and, you know, we don't want to be paying taxes on,
Yeah.
you know, lots. We're just going to hold that. There's where we're going to need to have some, you know, discussion with the council on how they could obtain access to the park, which we're willing to do. But really, for this to be viable, we need to keep that phase 2 in Greenbelt.
I understand.
Is it possible to, okay, I'm just looking at this to think, is it possible to keep that part closer to the phase 1 part so it's not jumping over, or is that?
This is our
Are you way
proposal.
beyond that?
On Greenbelt, you have to have continuous acres. You can't have Greenbelt in 2 different parcels.
I meant instead of having like 7, 8, and 9, you make that the park. Would that be 5 acres? I was just
It's a-
moving it closer. Is there a?
Your question is valid. and I think I thought of it throughout this process. As you look at the property, and Gordon can comment on this. As you look at the property, there's a historic value to this area. This is a historic plum orchard, and you have the canal as part of that. So you have the water
Okay.
feature and the trail. This
That makes
canal
sense.
connects all the way through and goes all the way to Smithfield.
This is the
Um,
best part.
Gotcha. Thank you.
We've had even people in our family that would build homes there, and we've not agreed because, you know, there's an opportunity we still have.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that.
Gordon, is that flag area up there, 7, 8, is the access road, is that going to be a regular road so that emergency equipment can get down there?
We got educated on that for, if it was one home, it's a 15-foot paved path. If it's 2, it's 26 feet. So whatever the code is at the time, I suspect is what we're gonna, and it is for fire.
Good.
Okay.
That becomes a private land. Okay,
Yeah, it's
but
private.
is it going to need emergency equipment of that?
It'll be built.
Yes, and so you're both correct. It would be a
Mhm.
private lane, but when it's built, it has to be built to a certain code, and that code is, as Gordon described, it would have to be a 26-foot wide if it's accessing both lots off of that 26-foot wide paved path that meets the fire code.
But it's
Fire
a
can
private,
get,
it's a
fire
private.
troop
it's
can get
private.
down there.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so as we've become educated, we have made some changes, you know, since what you were provided, and we did that on Tuesday, which was really our first opportunity to sit down with the city's engineer.
Gordon, is this, is there a time sensitive issue here? Or,
Yeah, I have a developer on the north that's wanting to run a sewer line through this property,
yeah,
and he's already, as you know,
Right.
in fact, I don't know if he's got the report on the meeting tonight, but we're not going to be the ones that are going to hold him up, but we could. We're not in the same urgency that he is.
right, okay. So you're not in a hurry or,
I'm saying he is.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you and your wonderful family here are trying to help them as well as help the city and create a historical monument, if you will, in the area. You've got some time.
Well, the whole idea has time.
Yes. Okay.
The concept plan, as I understood, is to meet the zoning, is to show the number of lots, and is to show the location of the roads. So if we meet the requirement, our next step is to go to the city council. And when we have the city council's agreement, then I would have confidence that the city's on board. I know the staff's on board, but I'd like to know officially that the city's on board.
Right. And Alan, from the city's perspective, is this a time-sensitive issue? Is there something that is urgent that we need to move on this immediately?
Yeah, I would say yes and no, but the time is kind of irrelevant to the city. It's more of a question, as Gordon brought up, if it meets the code. The planning commission, this is kind of an education process, not that you need to be educated, Heather, but if it meets the code of the city, that's administrative, that's your function as the planning commission. There's only a few items, they're legislative or discretionary. If it meets the code, then you're obligated to approve it. If it does not meet the code, no matter how much you like Gordon or Doug, and they're fantastic individuals, you cannot approve it. And so it's really a question tonight of, does this meet the code? Does it meet the character intent? Is the lot configuration and the roads, do those meet the zoning intent of this area and the rules and regulations? The staff has found that after they met with us, they reconfigured everything, that it does meet the zoning regulations for a concept plan.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I can appreciate the coming in, let's understand the concept, kind of get a temperature reading, a barometer reading you mentioned. And from a concept review standpoint, I'll share kind of where I'm at. I didn't see this one. I saw the previous one, and read some of the stuff in the file earlier. Conceptually, I'm okay. I'm okay with the zoning. Where I'm struggling, and this is where the risk runs between concept and development is, and this is going to start to bleed out of planning commission and into city council, because this is a big commitment to the city. And I know there's generosity involved, and I'm not, questioning that, but there is, there's a commitment, it sounds like, of road and infrastructure, park maintenance, those sorts of things, which really kind of fall out of our realm. So I'm trying not to, but they are hanging over all this.
Parks are in your realm, just so you know that.
Okay.
Part of the master plan.
So my sense conceptually, I do want to, the flag lot was 7 and 8. That's probably because I'm learning about it right now. So I'm trying to go, okay, are we meeting everything there? I think we're okay. But I'm gonna, if I give a positive recommendation tonight, I'm gonna reserve the right to spend some time digging with it, and we may have further discussion at development plan. But that's the only concern that I have right now, and it's just mostly because I haven't had any time to really chew on that flag part. But so it's really just the two things.
One thing you could do is make a condition, just like we did beforehand, but the condition of your approval of this concept, and if you so choose, is to make sure that the lots 7 and 8 do comply with the flag lot ordinance in conjunction with using the density determinant on this concept plan. You could do that before it ever approaches or is approved by the city council.
Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm sitting with things. Dwight?
Yeah, I'm appreciative of the generosity of this wonderful family and long-term residents and everything, but there just seems to be a lot of variables and issues going on here that I don't know. I'm maybe coming back at another time with more more definitive answers and clearer drawings and et cetera and so forth would maybe make a difference for me. So I'm kind of like, let's have another look at it, give it some time, or give everybody some time to decide what they want to do and how they want it implemented.
Let me interject something right here, just as a kind of an educational thing. At the concept review, that's about, I mean, we are really kind of getting at the level that we're going to get here. The risk just falls on the developer.
Yeah.
At this point, we give them, seeing the detailed drawings and answering all the questions that we're all a little bit uncomfortable about, that really becomes just the risk of the developer saying, yeah, I'm going to walk out of the meeting. They're comfortable with the concept, but understanding that there's the risk of those things. But at this time, we really can't expect them to have that level of detail for the concept. Anyway, just some thoughts.
For me, I'm in favor of the concept. With the generosity of Doug and your family, Gordon, I think that it's fantastic that you're willing to do this for the city. And so for me, I would give a positive recommendation to go forward with the concept.
Oh, no, we're not motioning yet.
Just talking.
It sounded good. I liked it.
I'm just talking, so.
It's getting closer.
Good question.
One more, Commissioner.
This is beautiful plan. I just for clarification for me as I'm figuring out this road, when that first phase gets done and I'm just looking at that next road down to the park, does that immediately need to become on the city's agenda, or is there time for that? I know you might have mentioned that earlier. I just wondered how much time, if that has to go in, like, does that get in the city's budget right away, or like, what's the time?
I think that's going to be in the details of the discussion with the city.
Okay. So we
Because,
can approve that. There's no, like,
they could
pressure.
choose, the city could choose
Okay.
because of their budgets, that they couldn't even put a gravel path in.
Okay.
But I would see the city's going to probably have an interest in do something on the minimal side.
Sure.
And we're not going to support some big expense to pave that. Because we got to keep this in Greenbelt. And so it's going to have some lower end impact on a temporary type of road.
Gordon's correct. The overall intent would be, and there's the question marks. The question marks are really kind of the development plan question marks, which are many.
Okay.
There's a lot of question
Yeah.
marks, just like Smiling H when they came in. That's a very large subdivision. And at development plan, there are endless studies and things that we have to go through.
Okay.
With this one, it's kind of unique where we get to the point where the portions that are approved by the city council have elements related to budgetary items. And so when we get to that, the development agreement will bind the city in some aspect, which is approved by the city council, where we're obligated to do certain portions of this. And the big questions, and they're very good questions, are related to the road, how the park would go in, and the intent and the overarching intent of the developer, along with the city, is to sit down and come up with something, a master plan, which is what was referenced tonight, which the city's looked at doing and working with an intern that's just drawing up some conceptual drawings of something that would meet the intent and character of what the developer's looking for and the legacy of the land. And then also that meets the needs of the city as an open space and park for the community. And so we would go through that, and we would specify road, we would specify any other utilities, any other needs. But yes, a very good question that we need to definitively answer at the development agreement level.
Gotcha. Just getting anxious about
Very
it.
good question.
This is really the beginning of the discussion. And for us, we're taking it a step at a time. I mean, we're not developers. We're a family, and we've got, the benefit of an engineer. But, like when I was talking to Alan this morning, was, we can't be here next until June because we'll be out of town. And he said, well, you can have your engineer come. And, my comment was, no, I want to be there in person. And it was nothing to do that, we would get any preferential, consideration. I understand we meet the code, that's what's important. But for me to be in person is, we want to know the vibe, of the city. We know the vibe of the staff. They've encouraged us all along the way here for 2 months, but we want to know the vibe of the planning commission. We want to know the vibe of the council, and that's important. And And that's the kind of relationship that will actually let this be accomplished. You know, if it's the tough, if it's a tough style, like often you're going to get, pressured by, developers, that's not the vibe we want to go forward on an overall project that's going to take years, to accomplish.
I have one more question. Sorry to take so much time, but with that flag lot, just for clarification of the road, I'm imagining that the road, to have it be a 26-foot with the two lots back there, that'll be fine if it has to cut into 6 and 9, or do you already have that built as a 26-foot? Is that spacing already 26?
Oh, that's
feet
it.
wide?
There's space to build it. See,
Okay,
that's why that dashed line.
I know that's probably later on.
Yeah, that's
just make sure.
that's why there's a space between 6 and 9 is
Okay.
for the private lane.
Oh, okay. Thank
It would
you.
service both the lots, and at the time they come in for a building permit, it would have to be built
Like that.
before even one home is built. They would
Okay.
have to have that 26 feet going back in.
I just wanted to make sure it didn't like squish lot 9 out and then it was too skinny
Yeah.
if we were going to approve this.
Your name?
My name is Doug Yonker. I'm
Oh.
the younger brother. I mean, there was a budget question. And one of our hopes and beliefs is that we can go to community members and raise money for some of the development costs of this park. There's other, developers, or people who built soccer fields and soccer venues. We think we can access some of those same kinds of generosities and along with the city to help mitigate all of this just falling back on the city. So again, can we actually do that? I think we can, but I can't, guarantee that will happen. But I heard someone say earlier, it'd be nice if a developer came in and there was some green space.
Yeah.
And I leaned over to Gordon. I said, I think they're going to like our plan.
We do. It's beautiful.
So, and you're right. We have saved the best part, for the donation to the park, to start with along that canal bank. There's probably what I heard of 20 deer that come between our house and Jeff's house, and it's a beautiful place. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion? We ready to make a motion?
And our concept basically is, what is the concept plan?
Right there.
We just saw it.
Right,
On motion.
Well, it's 1 through 11
initially, right?
initially, and they can phase that
Well,
as they
phase.
develop it.
Yeah, the concept would be both. The concept's the overall.
Overall.
Just
right.
the concept they've got before us includes 2 phases.
And so the first phase is going to be 1 through 6. Is that right?
Right.
And the second phase being kept in green belt for now until you move into that and going forward.
Right,
All right.
yes.
I understand green belt. So
Okay.
you want to keep that as long as you can.
Right.
Mhm. All right, Mr. Chairman, I move we make a positive recommendation for the concept plan for the Beck Farm subdivision located approximately 12.31 acres, located at approximately 2880 or 2828 north, 600 east, parcels indicated. So
I
moved.
second.
You can.
Is that what I was supposed to do right there?
You're
I
fine.
cut you off.
No, you're fine. So Dwight made the motion, seconded by Heather. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4, April's meeting schedule.
I'll just bring this up. This originally, when they scheduled the dates for April, that's about very large up on that screen. Normally, the planning commission meetings would be 7th and the 21st. They nixed the 21st meeting because that's the week of the Utah League of Cities and Towns, in hopes that if members can attend, they can miss that week. So they nixed the second meeting in that month. However, after meeting with city council, several members will be out of town, including other developers and anyone that has business on the agenda the first week of April because it is spring break. And so the thought was, if we're going to have one meeting in April, can we move it to the second week? So city council has opted to move to the 13th. That does not require the planning commission to do the same and on the same week. However, if you would like, it's your choosing, if you opt to move to the 14th as well. So it would be the motion to move from the 7th to the 14th in April.
Well, I would prefer the 14th, because I won't be here on the 7th, but
That's
I'm open to you guys.
possibility. I may not be here on the 7th either.
Okay.
But
Spring break in
We should
Florida.
No,
What?
no, working.
You good with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with 14.
All right,
14th.
let's follow
Motion.
with city council and we'll do it 14th.
And then still plan on the 28th or
No, it would go to the
No.
next month. So you'd be on
We'll
the
just do
5th.
one.
Okay.
one
One in
meeting?
that month.
Your next meeting would be Cinco de Mayo.
I'll expect refreshments, Alan.
I'll see what I can do.
So one meeting in April.
Okay, any other things on the schedule you wanted to bring up? Is that it?
There's nothing that I have.
Perfect.
Okay, staff business? None? Planning commissioner business? Dwight? Aaron?
No, doesn't
Heather?
really-
No.
You've almost made it through your first meeting. Okay, well, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Aaron, Dwight, I move we adjourn.
A second, yep. I need to say it louder.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We're done.
Good job.
Yeah.